Hi everybody, it's me again, Emily. This is my second video for this project that I started. It's been a couple weeks, things have been a little crazy, we're in the middle of moving, although I wouldn't be able to tell that from the state of our room because I'm in complete and total denial that I have to pick up and move everything in like 2 weeks. So, sorry. Um, but first I wanted to start off too by saying thank you so much to everybody who's reached out to me about the last video I made and watched it, and they've been so supportive about this series, and I'm excited to know that there are people out there who have had some of these similar circumstances and situations and feelings. It definitely helps me to feel better to know that I'm not alone, which is probably the story of every human being's want on earth, to just know that they're not alone in a lot of these weird, sometimes uncomfortable things that we oftentimes want to pretend don't exist, but in reality everybody's dealing with them in the same way, or at least they're dealing with the same things in a different way. So today I was thinking one thing that I wanted to talk about is I've been doing a lot of research along with this project about perfectionism, the psychological studies behind perfectionism, all of those kinds of things. I've been watching TED Talks. I've thought a lot back on my own life and things that I've noticed, patterns that I've noticed that I've developed, thinking that's probably why I do this or that or the other. But the big things I wanted to hit on today were, first of all, perfectionism. I think, like most addictive type of behaviors, is in many ways glorified in our society, and especially perfectionism. We live in this world of social media where we post all these amazing things about ourselves and our experiences and all the things we've been doing. It can be really easy to compare, and I in no way say that to blame other people for my feelings or tell them they shouldn't be posting the things that excite them on Facebook or Twitter or whatever social media they want to use, because I do this too. I only post the things that are good, like getting married, or when I was excited about graduating from college. And if you look at my Facebook page, you'd think that was just all that my life was about. I don't post often, and I don't post negative things. I don't post like anything that would show that I'm not perfect or that I'm insecure. And so I think that's one way that's really easy for us to see that that perfectionistic lifestyle seems really glorified. And even beyond social media, just the day-to-day interactions that we have with each other on those kinds of things, but the actual media, when I'm talking movies and modeling and all of those artistic kind of things, they create this world that is really easy to fall into and forget that those people on that screen spent probably, I don't know, 8 hours getting ready for this half an hour film slice for this movie, and they they do that because that's the goal of the video, to make it look really nice and fantastic. And that's great, because I know I certainly want to be filmed in that kind of a setting without feeling like I looked really nice. But at the same time, it can be really easy to forget that when you see those people on the screen, when you see these celebrities on the red carpet, when you see whatever models you look at in magazines or on the internet or whoever you're watching, it's easy to forget that all of those things aren't necessarily who they are without the makeup, the hair, all of those things. It can be really distracting. And yet again, I in no way am downing on wanting to look nice or on makeup or any of those things, because I, just like probably every other girl, just about every other girl in the world, enjoy playing with makeup or having my nails done, or I deal with those body image things where it's like, oh, I want to look like so and so, or I want to look like so and so. And it, I guess my point is, when it comes to perfectionism attitudes, It's easy to compare yourself and think, why does my regular everyday self not look like this person's hours and hours and hours of work to look that good, on top of Photoshop and all video editing and all the other stuff that goes into that. It's really easy to forget those things. And that's just one of many ways I think perfectionism attitudes continue to revolve in our culture. I also think another couple of perfectionistic attitudes that I have experienced a lot have to do with knowing a lot of things. Like when we're talking about school or careers, I've always been a bit of a know-it-all, even though I might not know, and truthfully I don't know it all, and that's really hard for me to say that openly. And I think the reason is because I feel like you want to be perfect, you want to be knowledgeable, you don't want to make a mistake, you want to look like you know what you're doing and what you're talking about all the time. And I do not. And yet, I can't handle the fact that I don't know and can't openly say that to somebody in a conversation, especially if it's an argument. I'm sure that my husband goes crazy. He does go crazy. I should say that. I know he goes crazy because we'll get into a fight or an argument over something stupid just because I have to be the know-it-all. I have to be the right one. I have to be the one who gets the last word, and I always get so heated when in reality it's like, even if I don't know, why can't I just say that? And why does it matter if I know that anyway? We're talking like, I don't know, the last fight we got into was like over whether or not something was updating on my phone and why. I don't know. It was stupid. But I was so stuck in the idea of being right and not being proven wrong so that I wouldn't look bad, that I couldn't just let go and look him in the face and say, look, you're right, and it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this fight is stupid and I'm blowing it up to be more than it is, and I'm sorry. That kind of perfectionism, maybe that's a more unique one to my personality, but I definitely struggle with that. And I would say that's fallen from, like, when I was in high school I was that way. It's flown with me into my career. You are who you are. You don't necessarily change till you make that choice. And so that kind of attitude has followed me into my jobs and the way that I've interacted with people there, that I have to be the one who's right and everybody else is wrong, even if I don't actually know what I'm talking about. I just have to feel like I do for the sake of being that know-it-all self. So I don't know. Let me know if you're the same way in some ways, because I've never really openly talked enough with people about that to know if that's a thing elsewhere. My husband says he feels like it's something people kind of grow out of. It's kind of a teenager-y thing where you think you know everything and you grow out of it. And maybe that's true. I don't really know. But just let me know what you think. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about that I'm starting to see more of the older I get is kind of that whole parenting perfectionism thing. I am not a parent yet, and I definitely am not ready to be a parent yet, but I'm starting to be at the age where I have a lot of friends who are parents. That's more my age group is starting to become young new parents, and as I look at the world and look at how they parent their children and look at all the new things, like, this is the best way to raise your child, this is the best way to teach them this is the only way that they can eat things, this is the only way they can do this or that or the other. There's so much of this idea that there's one way to do things, and if you don't do it, then you're wrong, and you're a horrible parent, and you're not perfect, and you have to be perfect, or your kid's going to be totally screwed up for life and such a disaster, and they'll never function. And while I do think there definitely are things that need to be taught in a certain way to children, like, basic human mannerisms and necessities, like don't hurt people and don't steal things, those kinds of things. In reality, everybody is so different, and every child is different, and that kind of perfectionism that we put on ourselves and that I am literally terrified I will do to myself as a parent when I do decide maybe to get to that point is so debilitating. And I feel like it would just get in the way of being the parent that you already probably can be. So yeah, again, I'm not a parent. I don't have much more to say on that other than this is something I'm starting to notice, and eventually I'm probably going to be worried about it, but I don't have kids yet. But I'm sure that it's a thing, so if you have any information or comments on that, I would like to learn how to avoid that for myself, to not fall into those kinds of traps down the road when I start to think about kids and all of that stuff. So go ahead and share with me whatever you find. But those were the main perfectionism things that I have seen in my life, those broad spectrum kinds of things. So I'd love to hear stories and experiences and anything you've learned through it. I enjoy that kind of connection, and like I said, I feel like I'm really putting myself out there here in some really uncomfortable, vulnerable spots, and I probably seem a little more nervous on this video than the last one. I feel like I seem more nervous, and I think it's because I'm opening up and saying some of those things out loud that I don't tell people about myself. But a couple of things along with my research that I've learned in terms of the reasons why I think I am this way is the biggest one is just being afraid to be criticized. I think for myself, and yet again, I can only speak for myself. I don't really talk to a ton of people about this, like I've said, and I don't want to ever step on somebody else's experience by trying to speak for the masses, I guess. But for myself, I don't like being criticized or put on the spot in a way that makes me look bad. Same thing with the know-it-all thing. I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to look dumb. And so it talks a lot, if you read through the psychological information that's out there on perfectionism, that one of the biggest things is how perfectionists handle criticism in their life, the way they've been taught or experienced growing that into that kind of response to criticism. And I came across a couple of quotes that I thought were really powerful, and one of them was listed from Aristotle, the other one wasn't listed at all, who it was by, so I don't really know. Plus, it's the internet, so you never really seem to know 100% who said it on something that's really general like this. But I just wanted to share both of them. They're good quotes either way. So the first one says, "I've learned that our background and circumstances may have influenced who we are, but we are responsible for who we become." And I feel like that's a really good theme of this project for me, is regardless of how I got here, regardless of why I am the way I am, why I feel the need to be a perfectionist, the only thing that can really change that for myself is when I'm responsible and say, I may have been this way before, I may still be this way now, but I don't want to be, and I'm the only one who can change that. And so when I take the initiative for myself to say, I can change this about myself, and I can work through these challenges to be more of the person that I want to be, that's empowering to me. And it can be really hopeful to think about that future and that idea that it's going to be possible to come out of this if I make those choices to do so. Along with that, another thing that I kind of had thought about is, I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I'll start that kind of a thought and say, yeah, I can do this, it'll be good, and then I get in the middle of it and it's hard and I took on too much, or I feel like I wasn't as ready to do this as I thought I was. And so I spend all this time like trying to tell myself, like, it's okay to be not perfect, it's okay to make a mistake, and nobody's going to be looking at you, and nobody is going to be upset or offended, or whatever the situation is that I'm upset by. And another thing that I come across that I see a lot is it talks about it's okay to not tell yourself those kinds of affirmations that they talk about a lot, self-affirmations, in a way that seem too large to tackle all at once. So For instance, they said rather than saying I can do anything, you can say I can do some things pretty well, and I can learn if I'm willing to do other things that I don't do very well yet, but I will eventually when I practice. Those kinds of affirmations of taking it down from this big, huge, bold, hopeful thing, which is good to have, but I think, at least for myself and my perfectionism and my worry and my somewhat realistic pessimism that I get when I get that way, it helps me to think instead, rather than go for that big, huge goal up front, to just think, today I'm just going to try to do one thing a little better without worrying about being made fun of or not being perfect at it. And that's enough. That's enough for me to tackle today. And that, I think, is a good thing to learn to do, and I'm not very good at it. It's something I'm trying to slowly incorporate and say to myself, I can get through this. This move has been a really good example of that, to say I want to tackle this all at once, and then the minute I think about it, I get really panicky, and what about this, and what about that? We're going to forget something, we're going to pack things in a way they're going to get broken, or I'm going to miss something that's really important when we get there. So I think it's helped for me to just take one thing at a time and make a list and say to myself, if the only thing I get done today is this one thing, that's okay. And even if it's not perfect, I tried. And that is the whole point. So another thing that I've thought a lot about it, and this is the Aristotle quote that they said was from him, but I didn't fact check this. I don't actually know, but it's a good quote, and it says, there's only one way to avoid criticism: do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. And I think that that goes really hand in hand with that idea of perfectionism, is we want to do things that are perfect so that they are something and they are important and powerful. And I think it comes with, for me, a lot of passion to say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this really well because I want it to be something worth doing. But I avoid doing things because I don't think I can do them perfectly, because I think people are going to pick it apart. It's not going to be good enough. And so I think that's a really important thing to remember too, that the only way you won't be criticized is to do nothing at all. Everybody's always going to have a different opinion than you, and that's okay. That's part of why we're here, to learn and change ourselves, and it's helpful sometimes to see things from a different perspective, but you'll never know until you just try. So that's all that I had for this video. Like I said, we're in the middle of moving, and I'm not sure yet again when the next one will be. It might not be till we get to Texas, but we'll see. So thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think. I appreciate the feedback. Any more you can give is good. And if you have any more questions, you can go ahead and contact me. I actually do have a blog page attached to YouTube, which is like Google Plus, I think. I know that's not really a common social media, but it created itself with this YouTube channel, so it works for now. I've also created a Pinterest account. You can just search the Not So Perfect Perfectionist. It should pull up. I don't have a ton in there, but I'll put the 2 quotes that I talked about in here, as well as something that I saw that kind of was an image along with the affirmations concept, so you can go and find those there. Go ahead and feel free to like and share this video, comment. I'm excited to hear from you all. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.